Hi. Hey guys, it's me, Joselyn, and I'm back with another video. So what I want to talk about today is some things that I wish I knew before I started my transition. Now, these aren't things that are like a definitive list for people that they need to know. These are more personal things. These are like things I wish I would have known, but I'm sharing them with you guys because I'm sure there's some people out there that might hear some of this stuff and be like, I'm glad I know that. I never thought about that way. So I figured I'd share that, and that's what I'm gonna do. So here we go. All right. So number one, there is no specific order. When I first started learning about transitioning and stuff like that, I thought that there was like a specific way you had to do stuff. You had to go to therapy, get your letter, get on hormones, be on hormones for so long, come out, live as, desired gender for so long, change your name, hair removal, blah, all that stuff. Basically everything, change gender markers, all that, and then surgery basically was the finish line. That's how, I imagine that. I think that's how a lot of people imagine that. But in reality, there's, besides a few things, there is no specific order. There are certain things that you have to do. Back when I started transitioning, I had to do therapy before I can get on hormones. I think now there's informed consent, but I still recommend you going to a gender therapist before you start hormones, because that way you have a professional person to talk things out with, because even though I'm sharing my experience and it might be relatable, you're still better off talking to somebody who is trained to know how to help you through those things and help you understand them better. So in that way you are making the right decision. You're not rushing into something and it ends up not being what you want. Besides that, and then I know that you need to be on hormones for so long before you have surgery, but besides that, I think there's pretty much, you can do things in whatever order. There's a good chance that I will have surgery before I have hair removal or my name changed, and that's just the way things are, and it sucks, but that's how things are. Number two, you never know who will support you and who won't, because there's some people who you thought would support you and end up not, and there's some people who you thought would never support you and they end up being some of your biggest support. I've had friends, my best friend at the time when I came out, she stopped being friends with me and straight up told me that I can't be friends with Jocelyn, I'm only friends with Josh. And that hurt, obviously. I was still the same person. That's what she said, and that really hurt. I thought that she would be there for me, but she wasn't. But then I thought that I would have no family that would be supportive of me at all. None of my immediate family really is. But I was really surprised. My one aunt and uncle have been extremely supportive, and it means the world to me. They sometimes watch these videos, so if you guys are watching this, hi, Uncle Ted and Aunt Natalie. They have been always supportive. Every time when we go for Thanksgiving and stuff, they always come in and they're always like, hi Jocelyn. They use the proper pronouns and stuff like that, even when nobody else in the house is doing it, and it means the world to me, and it actually makes going down there 10 times better. I'm about to cry thinking about it because it means so much. Sorry about that. I did not expect to get that emotional talking about that. But yeah, you never know who's going to support you, and you never know who's not going to support you. So you need to always keep that in mind, because that was something that I didn't really keep in mind. I just had it set in my mind, this is how people are going to react, and you really can't react for people in your mind for them. Only they can react, and sometimes it'll be different than what you expect. Number three, transitioning won't always make your mental health problems go away. Now, I know that there are times where dysphoria is the cause of depression, anxiety, whatever, but there is a very, very good chance that they won't get better. I foolishly went in thinking that once I start transitioning, once I start hormones, I won't be as depressed anymore, and I'll be good. I'll be good. And I wasn't. It didn't get better, and I had to deal with that on its separate thing. So you can't, I know that some people do expect it, and everybody is just it's definitely because of dysphoria, and once I start transitioning, I won't have dysphoria, then it'll be fine. But a lot of times it's not the case, so you want to make sure that you still take care of your mental health if you have mental health problems, because that's important, and transitioning, like I said, won't fix them. Number four, it won't always make dysphoria go away, which I know that's really hard. I didn't want to accept that. Whenever I read that before I started transitioning, I was like, these people don't know what they're talking about, even though they do. They've been on hormones for probably years, and here I am 4 years later on YouTube being like, hey guys, guess what? It doesn't make your dysphoria go away, and actually it could make it worse, which is really weird. But it, for me, it made my like my more mental dysphoria or whatever go away, and it slowly helped with my social. But like body is like worse than it was before, because I don't know, it just is, and it drives me nuts. But yeah, so just don't expect to start transitioning and then like, oh, as soon as I get me, my hormone pills, my hormone shots, whatever it is you're taking, dysphoria will just magically go away and I will feel fine and normal again. That probably won't happen. You will probably still have times, and then even like fully transitioning, you might still have issues where like you'll have certain things that you're dysphoric about, and that it sucks, but that's just the reality of things. And it's something that I guess the sooner you learn that and accept it, the sooner you can just start dealing with it or living with it or managing it or whatever the right wording would be. I don't know. Number 5, you don't have to fit into the trans community. Now, that was something that's always bothered me. I'm like, I don't talk about my political stuff too often. I didn't vote for either people in this one. I voted Libertarian, which I know a lot of people are going to be like, oh, you wasted your vote, but that's another story. But I've always felt like I didn't fit into the community because, most people in the trans community, they're on the left side of things, and there's a lot of things that I don't agree with that side, just like I don't agree with a lot of things on the right. And so I just felt really isolated, like I was alone and by myself in the community, and it made me, like, I tried to change my views on certain things, and I just couldn't, because it wasn't what I believed in, to try to fit in. And so you got to keep in mind that, like, you don't have to change to try to fit into the community. Be yourself. That's the most important thing, because if you try to change to be somebody you're not, you're just it's not gonna make you happy. Like, were you happy pretending to be the gender you were born as? No. So do you think you're gonna be happy pretending to be a completely different person just so you fit in a different way? So you don't take yourself out of the situation and put yourself exactly back in it, just in a different form. It's not worth it. Just be yourself, and eventually you will find people. There are people out there who do think the same way, who you can fit in with. Everybody in the world has different views. So you will find people, but like initially, especially if you have different views, you won't fit in, and that's where I was. And it sucks, but eventually you'll find somebody. And so I guess I shouldn't say that you don't always have to fit into. It's like you might not always immediately fit into the trans community. Number 6, and this is a big one. This is the one that I'm sure probably will maybe not upset a lot of trans people. It pisses off a lot of transgenders. Nobody gives a fuck. Nobody gives a fuck that you're transgender. Probably 90% of the people in your life, once you come out, 90% of them probably will not give a fuck after a few months after you come out. Like, at first, they'll be all like, oh, I understand you, I want to do this. They'll make a huge deal out about it. And then after a while, it'll just become normal. It'll become normal, which is exactly what you want. You don't want to be treated like you're special. And that's exactly what happens. Eventually, it just becomes normal. And unless people are specifically trying not to make it normal, nobody cares. Nobody gives a fuck. And so you don't have to worry about like, oh man, everybody's like thinking about it all the time, because nobody probably thinks about it at all. You're the only person thinking about it, and then you end up bringing it up. Nobody gives a fuck. Just don't stress about that, because it doesn't matter. All right, number 7. This is one that for the longest time scared the shit out of me, and it's something that I don't feel like a lot of people talk about, because a lot of people freak out over it. But you won't die if you miss a dose of HRT. If you miss your hormones, it's not like the end of the world. Like, I know when you first start, you're like,
I need to take them. I have timers. I need to take them in this exact second of the last time when I took them, and not a second later. And if I don't, then everything's gonna fuck up, and like I'll throw a beer overnight, and it'll be the worst thing ever. And
there's been times I've had to go, I haven't talked about this, but I've had to go actually a whole month without my hormones. It wasn't the funnest thing in the world. There was a lot of more emotional things, like there was a lot of mood swings and stuff like that, and like heat flashes and all that other stuff. But it's not the end of the world. You can always go back on them. Being off of them, and if you miss them even just like a day or two, like I used to not stay out overnight. I would go to friends' houses and they'd be like, hey, do you want to stay overnight? I'd be like, I don't have my meds, I have to go home, I can't miss my hormones. And now I'd just be like, I could just take them in the morning. It doesn't matter that I miss a dose. Like, I know don't live like that regularly, but like here and there is not gonna mess up anything, and you don't have to stress over that, even though I know it's something that's easy to be like, I don't want to miss him at all. Number 8, eventually the excitement will wear off, which I wasn't sure how exactly to word that. Even that kind of sounds weird, but like the excitement feeling of like, oh my god, I'm finally doing this, I'm finally transitioning, I'm finally like, that feeling of like, this is finally happening will eventually go off, because eventually it becomes your normal life. Like, it's not like something that you've been waiting to do and you're able to do for a little bit and then you have to wait again to do it. Typically you do it, you start transitioning, and then that's your life. That's who you are. And eventually it does get boring because you're just living life. That's all it is. Like, it's exciting at first because it's like all these changes, everything's, happening. But then eventually you just settle in and it's your life. And I've noticed, like, online, like, some people, like, freak out when they stop being like, I'm no longer excited about this and all this. Like, am I not really transit? Where often it's like, no, it's just that when you, like, even I was like that. I'd be like, I don't feel, like, as, like, into this. I don't feel as excited. Like, that's why I stopped talking about trans topics, because I was like, this doesn't feel that, whatever to me. It's just whatever. But yes, excitement will wear off. Eventually you'll just hit a point where you're like, this is my life, and that's that. Number 9, don't compare yourself to other girls. That's really hard to do, or guys if you're female or male. That's really hard for me to do because I always it's not even just looks. It's just like, for instance, my biggest thing that I always compare myself to other people is, like, I'll see all these girls, all my friends, they'll do makeup and it's so good, and I'd be like, man, I wish I could do that. When I do that, I look like a 5-year-old that just got their first makeup set. And it finally occurred to me that I am a 5-year-old that just got their first makeup set. They've been doing that since they were 5 years old, and had years, literally 10 plus years of practice, whereas I'm just learning. Like, I shouldn't be holding myself. I wouldn't go to a job and compare myself to somebody who's been there for 20 years and be like, man, I'm not as good as them. I just started here. I should be just as good as them. Like, and it has been so hard for me to, like, realize that. I don't know why. It should be common sense, but it wasn't. Like, makeup, hair, all that stuff. Like, it was something I never really learned. And now I'm starting to learn that stuff. And, like, I always end up feeling bad for it. I'm like, everybody's so good at it. Why can't I be good? I want to be good at it. I should be caught up with them. And it's just like, no. You got a lot of time to practice and learn to catch up with people because, sadly, that's how it has to be. But whatever. You just don't compare yourself to others because everybody learns at their own speed, and that's what we're all doing. Number 10, doubts are normal. Now, I know some people will be like, no, you have to be 100% before you do this. But, like, I think most people who have transition will say doubts are normal, and it's really hard to accept that doubts are normal. Think about it this way. If somebody's getting married, there's a cold feet for a reason. Like, the day before, like, they're still, there's people who are just like, I don't know if I should do this. I shouldn't do this. I don't know. This is like, having a baby, buying a house, buying a car. These are all, like, huge life-changing things. And I think going into it with even a little bit of doubt shows that you've put thought into it. You've thought about, like, every single aspect of it. If you go into there without doubts, I'm honestly going to assume you probably haven't done anything about it and you're just, like, doing it on a whim, because I think doubts are healthy. And I think we need to stop, like, treating people being like, since you have, doubts, you shouldn't do this because you have to be 100%. Like, obviously you need to be pretty sure, like 75, 85, 95% sure. But I mean, if you have 5, 10, 15% of doubts, like, I personally think that that's normal. Like, you're obviously going to have doubts before anything that's going to majorly change your life. And that's normal, and I think we just need to normalize that in this department because it really isn't, and I think it makes a lot of people feel bad about themselves and question themselves, and that's not cool. And last but not least, number 11, don't compare yourself to other trans people. Everybody's transition is different. As I heard way back when I started reading about transition-related things, and on old forums and stuff like that, is the term "your miles may vary," which is very true. Everybody has their own different story, their own different journey. Everybody goes in their own order, and you can't compare yourself to, because it's so hard. Like, I would watch stuff on YouTube and I would be like, man, why couldn't have hormones been as good for me? They've been on hormones for 1 year and I've been on it for 4 years, and they look like that and I look like this. And everybody's different, and everybody's beautiful in their own way, and you just need to not compare yourself to other trans people because it's really hard. Everybody's body's different, so everything's going to affect them differently. There's so many different things, and comparing yourself to another trans person's transition is not fair to anybody, including yourself or the other person. So just don't compare yourself to others. Don't compare yourself to yourself, and just be a better you. Alright, well, that is that. I really hope you guys enjoyed this. That was a kind of a long video, but I hope it was more fun than the last one. I know I got a little emotional there in the middle, but hopefully it was a little bit more fun. Let me know if you guys have anything that you want to hear my thoughts on. Let me know in the comment section, tweet me, Facebook, whatever. I'm open to ideas. I do have a list of things, but I figure if there's something that people want to hear from me, I'll give it a go. Anyway, that's all for now. Thank you guys for watching. If you enjoyed this, give it a thumbs up. If you are new to the channel, hit subscribe, especially if you're here for the trans stuff, because that's what I'll be talking about for a little bit, but I do other stuff. I'm working on gaming stuff. I'm actually going to be doing some VR gaming. I have the virtual reality. I have Accounting Plus. They just did a huge update, and I learned how to green screen and stuff like that, so I'm going to hopefully have some cool VR videos coming up. Skyrim VR, and then there's a game where you're like a fucking cat knocking over shit and pretending to be a cat. You're just running around going like this, and I think that'll be really funny. So I have some really cool videos coming up hopefully soon, so stick around for that. And yeah, I guess that's all, and I shall see you guys next time. Bye.